Good evening. My name is Jessie and welcome to our first cooking class. Today we are going to learn how to make lemon cake. Now, first of all, let me talk about the ingredients that we are going to use. You will need plain flour or tepung gandum. Then you will need castor sugar. Now this is very fine sugar for baking, not the big grained sugar. So it's called gula castor in the shops. You also will need icing sugar later for the cake. Now here I have butter. This is unsalted butter. Alright, it's written there unsalted. So we will add a little bit of salt to it. We won't use all this butter, we'll use some of it, and it has to be room temperature. You see, it's quite soft. We need 2 eggs, essence of vanilla. I'm sure you all know what this is. We will need some milk. We'll need at least 2 lemons, not limes. Limes are round and green. These are lemons. And of course, baking powder. Okay, let's move on to the ingredients that we are going to use, which are the equipment that you need actually when you start baking. Now let me put this away and take the equipment out here. Okay ladies, what we have here is things that we need to bake this cake. Alright, I'm just doing all this so that you get better organized and you'll see how it goes. We will need measuring cups, because in this cake recipe which you already have, they go by cup measurement and not the weighing machine measurement. Now these are baking cups. You can buy them online or in any baking shop. This is a 1 cup measurement, and it's always not heaped but level. Alright, you must level out everything. Then there's half cup measurement, a 1/3 cup, 1/3, 1/4 cup, and even a 1/8 cup. So it's very convenient to have a set like this, because when you have cup measurements, it's so easy. Right? You don't have to be looking for bottles and other measuring cups. You also have measuring spoons. Now, whenever they say 1 teaspoon, and then you look in your drawer, you might find 3 different sizes of teaspoons. Then you don't know which to use. So if you buy a set of these, you will get 1 tablespoon, half tablespoon, 1 teaspoon, and a 1/4 teaspoon. I think there's a half teaspoon that has got lost somewhere, but if you put 2 1/4 teaspoons, you get your half teaspoon. So this is another essential or important thing that these are very cheap. Okay? You don't really have to spend too much money on them. They're a few dollars only. You need a sieve. I'm sure you all know how to use this. Alright? The thing is to sift your flour before you make your cake, so that your cake is nice and airy. Otherwise you get very heavy cake. And it's also very good, you have to sift your icing sugar, otherwise you get lumps in your icing. Now this is a grater. We are going to use this today to grate the skin of the lemons. I will show you at the next step. Okay? I'm using the small part of the grater here. And of course, you need a baking tray, and I'll show you how to prepare the baking tray in a little while. And the magic stick. Any satay stick will do. This is to test your cake. So when you want to test your cake, use this or a lidi. Don't use a big fat knife because your cake will break. Okay, that's your magic stick. Now this is a pastry brush. You want to brush something on your cake, egg or syrup or whatever, you use this. I have a bigger one. This is just as good. If you can't find this anywhere, any paintbrush will do. Alright, a simple thin paintbrush, flat paintbrush like that will help. Also doesn't cost much. Now this I find is very useful. You can get very cheap ones online. It's called a spatula. It's on your equipment list. If you look in there, it's called a spatula. It's easy to scrape the side of the bowl when you're making a cake. Alright? And it works very well, better than a knife. And then of course you have your electric beater or cake maker. Now this cake maker is a national cake maker. I think I've had it for maybe about 10 or 10 years. It's made all my cakes for me. Now here you see a fancy one which I only got 6 months ago at a cheap sale. So I had to wait a very long time. So don't worry, this works very well. It has made all my cakes, all my life I've had this time. Nowadays you can get them with a stand. Alright, so this one has a stand, this one has no stand. With a stand it's a bit convenient. They all cost less than $100. Alright, and once you invest in one and take care of it, it will last you a long time. Okay, and of course you need a bowl. I've got 2 bowls here, one to make the cake and one just for putting rubbish in, or whatever I have to put. Okay, now finally you need cloth to wipe things up, or a paper towel roll if you spill something. And what I have in my hand is baking paper. It comes in a roll in a box, just like aluminium foil and what we call the plastic wrap. And it's very good because if you make biscuits on it and you line the biscuit tray, you can reuse the paper. And it also works for lining a cake too. Okay? So these are the things if you want to be a baker. You need to spend a little bit of money on it. It's not expensive at all. And then you can use it very economically. Okay, that's all for equipment. So what we want to do now is go on to actually look at the measure of things and to start making the cake. Now, to speed things up, not to take up too much time, I have actually prepared and sifted and measured the amount earlier. So now you can watch how, you know how to do that, you know how to measure and prepare the things. And then we'll go on to making the cake. Okay? Now we are ready to start baking. But just before we start on the creaming of the butter and the sugar, let me explain a few things. You have to pre-prepare some things. So you don't want to be doing something halfway and then deciding you're using the wrong sugar or you don't have the correct butter. So if you get everything ready beforehand and then start baking, everything becomes very easy. Alright? Sometimes what we do is we start creaming here and then we say, okay, now let me sift the flour. And you're going to end up with a very messy kitchen. So what I have done is, I have sifted the flour according to the 1.5 cups flour, if you look at your recipe, and 1.5 teaspoons baking powder, and I sifted it and kept it. Okay, now remember always that flour must not be cold. If it's slightly warm, or keep it in a warmer place or room temperature, it's better. You put it in the fridge, it tends to become a bit wet and sticky. Alright? Then The flour is ready, but what you need to do first is to prepare your baking tray. Now we had a brush. Here I have used baking paper and cut a piece of paper to fit the base of the tray. Now this is a small cake, so you don't really need much around the side. So what I'll do is I'll take a bit of this butter. See, the butter is already soft because we need it soft. Just a wee bit. Alright, this is more than enough. Brush it all over the side and the bottom of the tin. Alright. Then put the paper down. What I do is I cheat. I turn it around so that there is butter on both sides of the paper. Now the paper will sit properly inside. Can you see that? Just press it down. So it won't stick. The cake won't stick to the bottom of the pan. Sometimes if it's a deep cake and you turn it over, it breaks because it's sticking here. So this helps. If it's a bigger tin, you might want to do the sides, but we'll talk about that in another session, okay? So that is something we've already done. Secondly, you'll notice that they need buttermilk, half cup buttermilk. Now, buttermilk is made by, oh, before that, what I did was I also squeezed the lemon juice from 2 lemons, so that we can use it for the whole baking, for the cake, for the icing and for the syrup. Okay? So if you prepare, squeeze and prepare, you don't have to be doing it in the middle of making the cake. So it's ready. And to make buttermilk, you just take half cup of milk, which I have here, and you add 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice. Alright, now where's my 1 teaspoon? That's a tablespoon. That's a teaspoon. Okay. 1.5. Stir it and you leave it. By the time we need this buttermilk, it will curdle. You know? Curdle means it gets into a bit lumpy, and that's how you make buttermilk if you don't have any. You can buy this in the supermarket, but it's expensive. If you don't have lemon juice for any other recipe like scones and all that, you can put same amount of rice vinegar. Right? Rice vinegar is not very sharp, but it does the job. Okay, we leave that. So we have 2 things ready. Another thing I did was to prepare the zest for the lemon juice, for the lemons. The cake asks you for 1 tablespoon of lemon zest. Now lemon zest, I had a bowl here, it's gone. This one. You get lemon zest by using the fine part of the scraper. Wash your lemon well, then gently scrape the yellow skin up. Don't go into the white parts, okay? Just the yellow part. Can you see the yellow part coming out? Is it visible there? Okay, so I did that with 2 lemons, well 1 lemon actually, and I got a tablespoon of zest. They call it zest because it's like an essence. You can get the smell, the fragrance, the taste. Okay? So we've got the zest ready. And they also want us to use half cup of unsalted butter. Which means I need my cups. Easy to measure. Half cup. This is easier to fill. Look, I've got half cup of butter and it's actually half a block of butter. So now you know if you cut the block in half, you've got half a cup of butter. Okay? So you don't always have to measure. If you remember, then you know it's half. Now this is unsalted butter, so I will have to add a little bit of salt to it. Sometimes you can buy salted butter. If you have salted butter, you don't need to add salt. Sorry, I always scrape everything out. Sometimes you watch it on television and they leave half the ingredients in the bowl and they don't scrape it out properly. Okay, that's done. Now I have measured out 1 cup of caster sugar here. Okay, always the butter and the sugar go together for creaming. So I'm putting them in the same bowl. Okay. Well, let's do the noisy part first. Okay, before we do this, we should actually heat the oven up. So I'm going to add this little oven here. And I'm going to heat it at about 180 degrees. I've got a timer. I'll put the timer to 55 or 45 minutes when we put the cake in. But now, I'm just putting it at 60 minutes. See how long it takes the cake. Now the reason is you don't want the cake to go into a cold oven. You need to put it into a hot oven. Alright? Okay, we need a lemon zest to go in because we're going to mix it all together. Flour, baking powder. Now the lemon zest, where is my zest? Lemon zest actually goes into the flour. Okay, otherwise we'll forget it. And I need a bit of salt for the lemon zest, which I also forgot to take out. And we just needed a half teaspoon salt, so that's a quarter. a quarter, it doesn't matter, I'm putting it into the butter or you can put it into the flour. Okay, that's done. So here we go. When we cream butter and sugar, you can put it at high speed, but cream it until it turns less yellow. It turns a bit creamish and whitish. It shouldn't be yellow, and it's very creamy. Okay. Okay, now we need to scrape the sides because sometimes the sugar and the butter get stuck on the sides without creaming. So that's when the spatula is very useful. Okay. Now you can look at the color. It's whitish or creamish. Can you see that? So when it's gone like that, we are going to reduce the speed. Don't go so fast. We're going to add the eggs one at a time. Okay? Now, why is it that you use the eggs one at a time? If you put all the eggs together, especially if you have more than 2 eggs, you'll find that the mixture is curdling. So you want it to mix well and have a lot of air in it. Put another one in. That's where you need your towel, your hands. Okay, now this has mixed well in it. Now I'm going to add vanilla, lemon juice. How much of vanilla do we need? I have the recipe here, so that's why I'm looking at the wall. 1 teaspoon vanilla essence. There's my 1 teaspoon. That's 1 teaspoon. And 2 tablespoons lemon juice. That's 1 and 2. So you see, when it's measured out, it's so easy to manage it. Alright, we have lemon juice, we have vanilla essence, so we combine that first. I'm going to scrape the bowl again. Now this is a nice time when you want to lick the batter because it looks so yummy. Yeah, it looks very creamy and nice. Okay. Now we're going to add the flour. I've mixed the lemon zest with the flour, it's all inside. So we're going to add the flour in 3 parts, and in between we are going to add the buttermilk. Okay? So you add the buttermilk twice, and then you add the flour first, about 1/3 of it, agak, okay? And then you put it on low. This is what I'm using is low. Alright? 1. I want you to notice how I manage the mixer. I don't go up and down this way and that way. I always go in one direction. So you watch it, how it goes. So I'm turning the bowl. So I'm turning the bowl clockwise, and the beater is going anti-clockwise. So if you do that, you get a lot of air into the batter. If you just go any way you like, then you are killing all the air bubbles. Alright? So you must develop a pattern of how you are putting the flour and cleaning. So from the beginning I have been doing this, if you've noticed. So now I'm going to put in some of the buttermilk, half the buttermilk. And then more flour. Okay, when that flour is mixed well, we add a little more buttermilk. In fact, all the rest of the buttermilk. Okay, normally you can add a last bit of flour and beat it, but I'm going to do something which I always do. I'm going to fold the flour in by hand using my spatula. That way you get more air bubbles in the cake. Alright, for the last bit, I'm going to fold in the flour. Now this is called folding. I scrape the sides, put the flour in, and then you fold it in so that you incorporate air into the cake. Alright? If you beat the last part too much, you won't get much air. See, I'm folding in one direction, same way as I was beating. I'm turning my hand clockwise, and the bowl is going anti-clockwise, the other way. Okay, we are done. Now we've got this lovely lemon batter. Which we are going to put into the tin. Now, this is a loaf tin. I normally make bread in it. You can use a loaf tin, or you can use a round tin. But a cake is always easier to cut when it's square or oblong. When you make a round cake, it's very pretty to ice and all, but when you have to cut it, it's a disaster because you'll be making diamonds and squares and all kinds of triangles out of it. So this one will be what we call a pound cake. But to avoid any accidents, I'm going to use this spoon to help me. So we have filled the tin. Now please remember, don't overfill the tin because it will flow over. I'm putting it at 3/4 and I'm hoping it won't go beyond that. At 3/4 you are a bit safe. If you are afraid that there's too much batter, you can always line the sides of the tin and the paper will hold the batter. So also, if you don't want the cake to have a mound to rise too much in the middle, you want a flatter cake, you make the middle a little bit hollow like that. Okay? Then it won't rise too much. Okay, we are ready for the oven. Let me adjust the temperature. It's at 180 and 9. Okay, have a look before it goes in. So that's what it should look like. And in we go. Ours is a small oven. I think yours is too. So check on which shelf it should go. Mine goes on this last shelf. And it should bake for about 45 to 50 minutes. Okay. That's what it says here, 45 to 55 minutes. So since it's a small oven, it may bake faster. Now while that cake is in the oven, we are going to make a syrup with the icing sugar because we're going to brush the cake with the syrup later. So we need these things. This is for the syrup, which we will make with 1/4 cup lemon juice and 3 tablespoons icing sugar. Now I have 3 tablespoons icing sugar here, and we need 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Well, that's my 1/4 cup. This is my paper. This is butter on this. Okay. And we stir it. We are also going to make a lemon icing, but that will have to wait because we can only make it at the last minute. Otherwise, it will become hard. Alright? So we leave this. And we'll wait for the cake to bake. See you in about 40